Hello there, friends. So I've now been back from Northwest Flow Festival for 2 weeks, and I wanted to put some thoughts in order and share them with you all, both about how it was kind of going to that event, as well as why it was so different for me. Drex here from Drex Factor Poi, sharing with you the love of poi spinning and flow arts to benefit your body and brain. And I did my first fire festival in like 4 years. It's kind of a trip. I want to talk about why. But before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Fire Mecca, Flow Fests, Flow Toys, Juggling Calling, Pyroterra Light Toys, Spin Balls, and Ultra Poi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all of these awesome companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I have down in the description of this video. And special thanks to the non-business friends of the channel, Lei Machinsky and Becca Bekkonen. Thank you both so much for supporting my channel, my work, and my mission. So as I'm recording this, I have a student who's been taking Skype lessons from me now for several months, who is in town and wanted to meet me face to face. So I'm on my way down to the National Mall to meet up with her. But I thought it was a good opportunity to do a walk and talk about some other stuff that's been going on. So roughly 2 weeks ago, something happened that has not happened in many years. Namely, I went to a fire festival, or I guess I should more accurately call it a flow festival. That is Northwest Flow Fest based in Seattle, Washington. It had been nearly 10 years since I had been in the Pacific Northwest, and it had been 15 years since I had been in Seattle itself. And of course, it had been 4 years since I had attended a live flow event. Now, I definitely walked into Northwest Flow Fest totally intending to take a lot of footage to do, like, you know, a full recap video, show everybody all the fun stuff that was going on there. And in the end, I think I wound up with a total of like 3 clips of video, which was not going to make for a very good recap, unfortunately. But I think it is good to talk about why that was the case and why I'm not upset about that. So I had something of a goal walking into Northwest Flow Fest. Most of the time when I go to a fire or flow fest, I come out of the weekend feeling absolutely spent and exhausted. I go back to wherever I came from and really struggle to kind of integrate myself back into life. And I wanted to come out of the weekend with as much, if not more, energy than I had when I went into it. And critical to that was listening to myself, to my body, to my brain when it was setting off warning bells that I was a little overwhelmed, that I needed to take a break, that I needed to rest, that I needed some space or to set boundaries. So a big problem for me in years past doing flow festivals is that I haven't been terribly good with any piece of that. There is an enormous amount of pressure, especially when you're a super well-known teacher, to be available at all times, to be fully engaged at all times, to be doing all the things. To say nothing of the fact that when you go to a flow festival, part of the reason you're going there is to connect with other people. So it becomes really tempting to just throw yourself in the deep end and tire yourself out in the process. So real quickly, I did just want to highlight some things that I really liked about Northwest Flow Fest, because after all, that is usually the point of a recap video. For one thing, I really love their business model of sticking flow festivals in major cities and public parks. It makes us more visible. It makes it more likely that random people are going to discover us, be curious about what we do, and try and, you know, sign up to be a part of this. I saw a lot of curious people come through the park that day, and I think I helped talk at least one of them into taking classes. In addition, I think they had a pretty good teaching lineup. You know, Seattle definitely has kind of an embarrassment of riches when it comes to awesome flow artists in the area, more so than I realized. There were a bunch of people that I saw over the course of the weekend that I was just kind of like, whoa, wait a second, I didn't know that you lived up here. They also had really good signage, and by and large, the site was pretty easy to navigate. The one kind of downside was that there were a lot of spaces where we were kind of struggling to find shade on what turned out to be a very hot day. But overall, like, the setup there was fantastic. And it also has to be said, as somebody who has put down a flag in the sand many, many times around teacher pay, not only did they pay me, but they paid me more than I asked for. That is the only time that has ever happened in all of my years going to the fire and flow festivals, and it was really appreciated, not the least of which because they were absolutely right that I should have been asking for more in the first place. And that kind of brings us back to why I don't have more footage of the event. Because you see, I had to teach 2 classes in the course of one day and also perform in their teacher showcase at the end of the evening. I had maybe a couple hours off in between each of these individual things, and more often than not, what I found I needed to do in between was to go stretch out, to give my mind a chance to relax for a few minutes, and quite frankly, to work on some other projects. As much as I was really keen to be running around and capturing footage of everything, I kind of realized that the way that I could give the best experience to my students, as well as the people in the audience, was to make sure that I was fresh mentally. And that meant that going and capturing footage kind of got knocked off of the list of things I had to get done. So there was definitely something that dawned on me the morning that the event started that I think I had kind of maybe had a little bit of awareness of, but I'd never really been able to put into words. See, as people showed up that morning, they were so unbelievably overjoyed to see each other. Whether they already knew each other or not, they would throw each other into each other's arms. They would spend all of their time excitedly saying hello and, kind of having to come back to track themselves of what their original task was, just because everything was so exciting and bubbly. Now, as I've been doing therapy the past few years, I have become more and more aware of the fact that I sometimes engage in a thing called dysregulation. That is putting myself in a position where I am abundantly excited or nervous or anxious, and that this is a state that felt so normal to me growing up that it's something that I sometimes actively seek out now as an adult. I can create a situation for myself where I'm experiencing peace, but I will still feel this drive to try and break up that peace. Not because necessarily I want to be in a space where I'm all kinds of anxious and uncomfortable, but because that's what feels normal. And when I'm in a space where I'm relaxed and at peace, it feels very unfamiliar. Sometimes the body craves the thing that it's familiar with, even if it's unpleasant. Like many flow artists, I am neurodivergent, and I have quite a history of traumas in my past. And I think that to a certain extent, part of what happens in the flow festival world, and in the flow world in general, is we are creating kind of like a little container in which we can experience dysregulation in a way that feels relatively safe. I mean, for God's sakes, we spin fire around our bodies. We deliberately induce an adrenaline kind of peaked state in ourselves. And as I recognized this phenomenon happening, it also dawned on me that I could make a different choice. And so I did. In moments when I felt myself getting excessively anxious, I would give myself space to go calm down. In moments when I felt myself driven to try and over-socialize myself, I gave myself permission to take a break from people. So in the days after, I noticed something that I had never noticed before. Namely, myself engaging in people-pleasing. That's a thing that I know that I do, but I had never caught myself really engaging in it before this. So I made a choice at that point. I knew that if I stayed hanging out with people, I would probably continue to engage in this. So I decided that I needed to chill. I communicated to people that I needed to go home. I made a choice to not go to certain social functions that I was invited to. I made a choice to restrict the amount of social contact that I had out there. Maybe someday I'll be at a place where when I'm in a social situation, I can turn off that need to engage in people pleasing. But as it stands right now, it's harder for me to do when I'm around people. So I just decided that it was time to chill and give myself some space. And that felt really good. Not the least of which because that was an option that until then I didn't even know that I really had. And it felt really good to exercise that and also be able to exercise some agency in that moment. All right, so I am now at the metro stop, so I'm going to go ahead and mask up and get on the train. Cool, so I am off the metro and just wanted to wrap up my thoughts here. So overall, I made my goal. I came back to DC no more exhausted than when I left, and in the process, I did a lot of practice in setting boundaries, saying no to things, and listening to both my body and my brain, which is pretty lovely. I didn't know a lot of these things were options when I first started doing Fire and Flow Fests. And, you know, it's good to know that they are. I'll be going to my next event here in a couple weeks, Great Lakes Flow. Link to them down in the description. But I'm feeling a lot better about that. I was a little anxious coming into this year as to what it would be like to go to these events, because historically I just come out of them feeling so spent and exhausted. But I'm feeling a lot better about it now. I like knowing that these are options, and hopefully y'all like knowing that these are options too. I hope that those of you out there that likewise struggle with trying to you know, keep your wits about you at the festivals, look at this and recognize that you have some options to work with too, and exercise those options. If you do, leave me a comment, let me know how this worked out for you. And if you have your own tips for setting boundaries at flow festivals, let me know down in the comments as well. Did you get anything out of this video? Please make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to help other people find it and help my channel grow. This video would not be possible without the kind support of all of these lovely people right here. These are my Flow patrons over on Patreon. They and the people listed down in the description help to make this video and all the videos on my channel possible. Thank you one and all for your very generous support. And if you out there watching are not currently a supporter but you'd like to become one, you can do so by heading on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and signing up. There you can get access to a whole host of awesome rewards, but even better than that, you'll be helping me out in my mission to bring poi spinning and flow arts to the whole wide world. So go check that out, please and thank you. And if you'd like to check out some of my other videos on flow arts culture, and specifically the fire festivals, I will go ahead and leave a link to a playlist of said videos down in the description, as well as up here on screen if you're watching on YouTube. Also, the YouTube algorithm thinks that you might like this top video here because a lot of other viewers of my channel have, so maybe give that a look as well. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to have a good day, get out and flow, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and thank you once again to Northwest Flow Festival for having me out. Peace.